Welcome back to our channel History Coins HD. As you that old is gold, but these rare $quarter coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. We're about to uncover the hidden story behind a coin you've probably held in your hand dozens of times without even knowing its incredible potential. We're talking about none other than the 1967 Washington Quarter, a coin that might look ordinary on the surface but could actually be a silent vault of value. Now, before you go rushing off to check your change jar, stay tuned, because we're going to explore what makes this coin so fascinating, what rare features to look out for, and why a single example of this quarter has stunned the numismatic world. Trust me, by the end of this video, you're going to be looking at your pocket change in a whole new way. Let's take a trip back in time to the late 1960s. It was an era of transformation, social movements, space exploration, and a rapidly changing economy. But while the world was watching the moon landing or protesting in the streets, something quiet and historic was happening at the US Mint. Up until 1964, quarters in the United States were made of 90% silver. But due to the rising cost of silver and a nationwide coin shortage, the government had to make a change. So in 1965, they stopped using silver in quarters entirely. Instead, the coins were now made of a copper-nickel clad composition. The transition was necessary, but it also meant a flood of new coins needed to be produced, and fast. Enter the 1967 Washington Quarter. These coins were minted in enormous quantities, and to speed up production, the mint made another important decision. They eliminated all mint marks from the coins between 1965 and 1967. No Denver, no San Francisco, not even Philadelphia. That makes tracking down certain varieties and errors from these years especially intriguing, because they're not easy to identify. At first glance, a 1967 quarter doesn't look any different from any other. On the front, or obverse, we see the strong and steady profile of George Washington, America's first president, staring off into history. The word liberty arches over his head, and beneath his chin sits the American motto, "In God We Trust." Flip the coin over, and you'll find a bald eagle with wings spread wide, perched atop a bundle of arrows symbolizing America's readiness to defend itself, balanced by an olive branch below to represent peace. It's a beautiful design, but as any coin enthusiast will tell you, it's not just the art that makes a coin valuable, it's the story behind it, the condition it's in, and the tiny mistakes that happen when things don't go quite as planned during the minting process, and that's where things get exciting. Because while most 1967 quarters are only worth face value, there are rare specimens that tell a different story entirely. You see, in the rush to produce millions of these coins, a few unusual errors slipped through the cracks. Some quarters were struck on the wrong metal planchet, maybe even on a dime or a foreign coin blank. Others display double die errors, where parts of the design appear slightly duplicated due to a misalignment in the dies used to stamp the coins. There are also off-center strikes, die cracks, and other rare abnormalities that make collectors' hearts skip a beat. Now, condition is key. Coins that have been circulated heavily, scratched, dinged, worn down usually won't fetch more than a few cents. But coins that have been kept in pristine, uncirculated condition? Those are a different story. Graded by professional services and sealed for preservation, these coins become highly desirable. Throw in a minting error or rare variant, and now you're looking at something truly exceptional. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. While most people wouldn't give a second thought to a 1967 quarter, a very small number of these coins, under very specific conditions, have been appraised at mind-blowing figures. That's right, one of the most overlooked coins in your loose change could be hiding a secret. Now comes the moment you've been waiting for. A rare 1967 Washington quarter, in near perfect condition and struck with a highly unusual minting error, has been valued at an astonishing $80,000. Let that sink in. A coin you might have once used for a gumball could now be worth more than a brand new luxury car. So what are you waiting for? Go check those old jars, dig through those forgotten drawers, and take a closer look at that stack of quarters. Because the next great discovery in coin collecting history might just be sitting in your own home, hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this story and want to discover more hidden treasures in the world of coins, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your change always bring big surprises. Top 2. We're diving into the incredible tale of the 1977 Washington Quarter, a coin that might look like every other quarter out there, but could secretly be worth a small fortune. So stay tuned, because by the time we reach the end, you'll know exactly what to look for in your change, and you'll hear about one remarkable coin that's been valued at a price that will make your jaw drop. Let's start with a little backstory. The Washington Quarter has been a staple of American currency since 1932. It was originally created to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first president of the United States. Over time, the design became so iconic that it stuck around for decades. By 1977, the Washington Quarter was already a familiar sight in wallets, pockets, and piggy banks all over the country, but while millions of these quarters were minted that year, only a handful have gone on to become collectors' dreams. Why? Because in the world of coin collecting, it's not just the date that matters, it's the details. Let's talk about the coin itself. On the front, or obverse, we see that classic image of George Washington in profile, the word Liberty stretched across the top, and the phrase, "In God We Trust," to the left. The date, 1977, rests neatly beneath Washington's chin. Turn the coin over, and you're greeted by a bold and majestic eagle, wings spread wide, perched atop a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, representing both strength and peace. Surrounding it all are the words United States of America and quarter dollar. Now, this is where things get interesting. Most people would glance at a 1977 quarter and assume it's worth exactly 25 cents. And in most cases, they'd be right. But some 1977 quarters are anything but ordinary when it comes to coin collecting. The difference between common and incredibly rare often comes down to a few critical factors: condition, mint errors, and scarcity. First, let's talk about condition. A coin that's been sitting in circulation for decades is likely scratched, worn, and dirty. These coins usually don't attract much attention from collectors. But if you find a 1977 quarter in mint state, meaning it looks nearly as perfect as the day it was struck, you might already be holding something special. Coins that have been preserved in uncirculated condition can be worth significantly more, especially when professionally graded by a service like PCGS or NGC. Next, let's talk about errors. Errors are the true wildcards in coin collecting. These can include double die strikes, where part of the design appears slightly doubled, off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned during minting, and wrong planchet errors, where the quarter was mistakenly struck on a blank meant for another denomination, like a penny or nickel. These errors are incredibly rare, but when they're found, collectors go wild for them. There are even 1977 quarters with clipped planchets, repunched mint marks, or coins that were struck with worn dies that leave unusual and inconsistent impressions. All of these unique features increase the value of the coin, sometimes dramatically, and then there's the wow factor. Every so often, a coin surfaces that checks all the boxes. It's rare, it's in flawless condition, and it has a striking error that sets it apart from millions of others. These coins are the holy grail for collectors. So, what if you stumbled across a 1977 quarter that fits this description? What if, buried in an old coin jar or tucked inside a childhood collection, you found a nearly perfect coin with a rare minting error that no one else noticed? Well, that brings us to the big reveal. Point 1. Extraordinary example of a 1977 Washington quarter, in pristine condition and with a rare minting mistake, has been appraised at an unbelievable $68,000. That's right. A single quarter. Worth $68,000. So the next time you're sorting through spare change or going through your old coin albums, take a closer look at those 1977 quarters. Check the edges. Inspect the details. Because your next big discovery could be sitting right under your nose. Top 3. We're taking a deep dive into one of the most surprisingly valuable coins in American history, the 1966 Washington Quarter. And now, I know what you're thinking. A 1966 quarter? That old coin? Isn't that just another common piece of change? Something you might find between couch cushions or in a parking meter? Well, hold on tight, because by the time you finish this video, you'll never look at a quarter the same way again. In fact, you might even find yourself searching every single coin you own, because the value of one rare version of this coin is absolutely unbelievable. To understand why the 1966 Washington Quarter has collectors buzzing, we need to rewind to a very significant moment in U.S. coin history. The mid-1960s were a time of big change. In 1965, the U.S. Mint stopped producing dimes, quarters, and half-dollars with silver. Rising silver prices and a national coin shortage forced the government to adopt a new metal blend. So starting in 1965, quarters were no longer made of 90% silver. Instead, they were made of a copper core with a nickel coating known as the copper-nickel clad. The 1966 quarter was part of the second full year of this transition. And because the US Mint was focused on solving the coin shortage, it made another drastic change. From 1965 to 1967, no mint marks were added to coins. This means that every quarter from those years looks nearly identical, no matter where it was minted. That alone makes this era unique, but it's just the beginning of what makes some 1966 quarters truly extraordinary. At first glance, the 1966 Washington quarter looks like any other. On the front, we have the dignified profile of George Washington, with the word Liberty boldly stamped across the top and the national motto, "In God We Trust," beside him. The year 1966 sits just beneath his neckline. Flip it over, and you'll see the classic eagle design, wings spread wide, standing atop a bundle of arrows, flanked by olive branches symbolizing peace. It's clean, balanced, and deeply symbolic of American ideals, but hidden among the millions of these coins are a select few that are not like the rest. Now let's get into what makes some of these quarters worth far more than 25 cents. First, condition plays a massive role. A 1966 quarter that's been passed from hand to hand for decades is probably worn down, scratched, and discolored. These are considered circulated coins, and they usually don't hold much value. But if you happen to come across a mint state or uncirculated 1966 quarter, one that looks crisp and untouched, it could already be worth more than you expect, but condition is only one piece of the puzzle. The real game changer is the minting errors. During the chaos of high production in the 1960s, the US Mint made more than a few mistakes. Some coins were struck on the wrong metal planchets, like blanks meant for nickels or foreign coins. Others were double struck, where the coin receives two impressions, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on the lettering or Washington's face. Then there are off-center strikes, die cracks, and even coins missing parts of their design due to misaligned dies or clogged printing. These error coins are incredibly rare and incredibly desirable. One particular category that gets collectors excited is known as transitional errors. These happen when a coin is struck with the wrong composition or design due to leftover materials from previous years. Since the US Mint was transitioning away from silver in the mid-60s, a small number of error coins were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets. If a 1966 quarter was struck on a 90% silver blank instead of the copper-nickel clad, that coin becomes something truly special. Identifying this type of error usually requires weighing the coin. Silver quarters weigh slightly more than clad ones, and confirming the material composition through testing. When you combine perfect condition with an incredibly rare mint error, you've got a coin that's not just interesting, it's potentially worth life-changing money. So here's the part you've been waiting for. After all the history, the technical details, and the deep dive into the fascinating world of minting mistakes, let's talk about value. There is one known example of a rare 1966 Washington quarter, in brilliant uncirculated condition, with a unique error that stunned collectors and left experts speechless. This coin didn't just turn heads, it made headlines. Its estimated value? An astonishing $82,000. That's right. A single quarter. Worth more than a luxury car, a college education, or even a down payment on a house. And it could still be out there, tucked away in a forgotten drawer, mixed in with loose change, or hiding in a coin jar just waiting to be discovered. So don't ignore those older coins. Look closely. Feel the weight. Check for unusual textures or misalignments. That little piece of metal you barely notice might just be a hidden treasure. Top 4. We're unlocking the story behind a coin that might be sitting unnoticed in your pocket or hiding quietly in a forgotten coin jar. It's not ancient. It's not made of gold. But it's a coin with a quiet kind of power, and it could be worth more than you ever imagined. We're talking about the 1973 Washington quarter, and now, don't let the date fool you. It might not sound rare at first, and yes, these coins were minted in large numbers. But as any serious collector will tell you, rarity doesn't always mean low mintage. It can mean the right coin, in the right condition, with the right combination of errors and historical quirks. And when all of that lines up, something amazing can happen. So let's rewind to the early 1970s. America was in a very different place. The Vietnam War was winding down, the Watergate scandal was heating up, and the economy was riding waves of inflation and uncertainty. While these massive national issues unfolded, the US Mint continued its daily work, striking coins, fulfilling demand, and quietly making history, one quarter at a time. The 1973 Washington quarter was part of this story. By then, the quarter had been a staple of American currency for over 40 years. First introduced in 1932 to honor the bicentennial of George Washington's birth, the coin's design had become instantly recognizable. On the obverse, we see Washington's dignified profile, facing left, with the word liberty above and the motto, "In God We Trust," nestled to the left. At the bottom, the date 1973 is boldly stamped. On the reverse side, there's the commanding presence of a bald eagle, wings spread wide, perched atop a bundle of arrows. Just below, a pair of olive branches add balance to the design, symbolizing peace and readiness, an image that still resonates today. Surrounding the eagle are the words United States of America and quarter dollar. It's a simple design, but a powerful one, loaded with American symbolism. But for collectors, the story doesn't stop at design. This is where the hunt truly begins. Millions of 1973 quarters were produced. So what makes some of them special? The answer lies in a powerful combination of condition, errors, and timing. Let's start with condition. A quarter that's been through years of vending machines, pockets, and car washes isn't going to attract much attention from collectors. But a 1973 quarter in mint condition, especially one that has never been circulated, can already be worth far more than face value. If it's been graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC and earns a high grade like MS65 or above, that coin is officially in collector territory. But now let's talk about the real game changer, minting errors. Sometimes, in the hustle of production, the US Mint makes a mistake. And those mistakes, when rare and dramatic enough, can make a coin incredibly valuable. There are 1973 quarters that were struck off-center, some with double die obverse where the letters or features appeared doubled, and even a few that were accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchet. Imagine a quarter that was supposed to be struck on a copper-nickel planchet, but instead ended up on a blank meant for a dime or a foreign coin. Or a coin with a dramatic die break, leaving behind raised, jagged lines or strange blobs of metal. These flaws turn an ordinary coin into a one-of-a-kind piece of history. What makes error coins even more special is how few people recognize them when they first appear. Many get spent, passed along, or tucked away unnoticed for decades. That's why they're so exciting to discover. They're hidden treasures, just waiting to be recognized, and once collectors find out about them, the bidding wars begin. But there's another twist. Some of the rarest 1973 quarters aren't just valuable because of an error. Some come from small, special production runs or have unusual features that weren't meant to be released to the public. Combine that kind of rarity with a coin in near-perfect condition, and you're talking about serious value. So now you might be wondering, what's the most a 1973 quarter could really be worth? Well, the weight is over 0.1. Exceptionally rare example of the 1973 Washington quarter, struck in pristine, uncirculated condition, and carrying a rare and dramatic mint error, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $70,000. That's right. A single quarter. Worth $70,000. So next time you're handed a quarter at the grocery store or digging through an old drawer, take a moment. Give it a close look. You never know when one of these everyday coins could turn out to be the discovery of a lifetime. Top 5. We're diving into a coin that changed US history, slipped quietly into circulation, and has, in very rare cases, skyrocketed in value to a staggering level. We're talking about the 1965 Washington quarter. And trust me, this is not just another old coin story. This one could change the way you look at pocket change forever. Let's rewind to 1965, a pivotal year for US currency. Up to that point, quarters were made of 90% silver. For decades, Americans had been used to the weight, shine, and sound of silver in their coins. But then came rising silver prices, hoarding, and a massive coin shortage. The US Mint was under pressure. Something had to give, and it did. In 1965, the government made a bold decision. They stopped producing silver quarters for general circulation. In their place came the new copper-nickel clad quarter, a sandwich of copper in the center with layers of nickel on the outside. Lighter, cheaper, and meant to solve the coin shortage crisis, but transitions are never smooth, especially in something as precise as minting. And this is where things get very interesting for collectors. You see, while millions of 1965 quarters were struck with the new clad metal, a few quarters, very, very few, were accidentally struck using the old silver planchets left over from the previous year. It was a rare slip-up, but those mistakes created one of the most desirable modern error coins in American history. Before we get to the incredible value these coins can bring, let's talk design. The 1965 Washington Quarter features the classic image of George Washington on the obverse. His profile faces left, with liberty above, the national motto "In God We Trust" to the left, and the year 1965 clearly visible below. On the reverse, there's a bald eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches underneath. The words United States of America and quarter dollar encircle the top and bottom. The IT looks like any other Washington quarter, right? But appearances can be deceiving. What makes a 1965 quarter special isn't just its date, it's the details hidden beneath the surface. First, there's the composition. A standard 1965 quarter should be copper nickel plaid. But if you weigh your coin and it comes in heavier, about 6.25 grams instead of the normal 5.67 grams, it could be a silver planchet error. And that tiny difference in weight could mean a huge difference in value. Then there are condition and rarity. Most 1965 quarters were heavily circulated. They have nicks, scratches, and where that reduced their value to face value, 25 cents. But a coin in pristine condition, known as mint state, especially one that's been professionally graded, can carry a significant premium. And here's where things get even more exciting. Collectors across the country have been hunting for 1965 quarters struck on silver planchets, and while only a handful have been confirmed, they've caused a stir every time. These coins are the perfect storm, a mix of historical significance, a major minting transition, and a dramatic error. And when one of these rare pieces surfaces, it becomes the centerpiece of any collection. But even beyond the silver error, there are other rare minting issues to look for, like double diabursts, off-center strikes, or broad-struck errors. While less dramatic than a silver planchet, these mint mistakes can still fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on their rarity and condition. So here's the takeaway: if you come across a 1965 Washington quarter, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. Check its color. Does it have the dull gray tone of silver? Weigh it. Does it come in heavier than expected? Are the edges missing the copper stripe? These small clues could be the key to uncovering a coin that's hiding in plain sight. Now for the part you've been waiting for, the reveal. Point 1. Exceptional 1965 Washington quarter, struck by mistake on a silver planchet and preserved in extraordinary condition, has been valued at an eye-popping $85,000. Yes. A single quarter. Worth $85,000. So go ahead, dump out that old jar of change, search through your drawer, or ask your grandparents if they've got any old coins stashed away. Because one small, seemingly ordinary coin could turn out to be the biggest financial surprise of your life. Thanks for watching. If you're as fascinated by rare coins as we are, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a hidden treasure. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your pockets full, and your collecting spirit alive. Happy hunting!